This job provides so many privileges of meeting amazing people and doing amazing things. Aung San Suu Kyi, an amazing person and clearly such a privilege to meet her, but equally I find the experience of travelling and working in Burma and meeting some of the people who are standing up to the regime, running health clinics, for example, against the will of the authorities, making art, making rap music, trying to subvert the government. All of that's a great privilege.
After months of planning and negotiating, I'm on the last leg of my trip to see the world-renowned democracy campaigner. I've slipped into Burma posing as a tourist. As a journalist, I'm not supposed to be here, and if I'm caught, I could be arrested, deported or jailed.
I'd been warned that Aung San Suu Kyi, being such a strong woman, can be quite prickly to deal with.
He listens quite carefully.
I must say that I found her incredibly welcoming. She spent a few hours with us having cups of tea. She wrote a letter to my son who'd sent her a birthday card.
He did ask why you couldn't come to see him at his house.
Well, I read sometimes.
She was very warm.
What's his name?
If she disagrees with something that you say, she'll be right back at you. But you do get the impression with her that she believes so strongly in everything that she's saying that you get very honest responses from her.
Is that a source of frustration for you, not to be able to take your message out, to have to try and get it out through other means?
No, because after all I can get out my message. It's not the same as going, of course, but I'm not frustrated by it. I mean, you've got to remember that I've been under house arrest for 15 of the last 20 years, and I've discovered that I'm really not a gadabout.
The house is a rambling, old Asian-style mansion, quite dilapidated like the rest of Rangoon, sitting on the edge of a lake.
I used to have a lot of trees along the waterfront.
It must have been stunning in the old days before things went so bad for Burma decades ago, but still a very charming house, as Rangoon is a very charming city. I guess as a foreign correspondent, you live with risk day to day in your work, and nothing brings that home more than to see colleagues killed in their work. And I think all of us this year have reflected on that with the death of Paul Lockyer, John Bean and Gary Ticehurst in the ABC helicopter crash. I've thought a lot about Paul since his death, particularly here in Bangkok, his old patch, living in a very similar old-style house to what he would have lived in with his wife Maria and their two boys. Our housekeeper told me how she and her sister Ubon used to work for Paul and Maria when they were in Bangkok in the 70s, and that they looked after their two boys who were very small kids at the time. And of course Munta and Ubon, 30 odd years later, still here working for us and looking after our babies. Paul was an old mentor of mine. We covered the Athens Olympics together, and while I was there I was appointed to my first posting as the Africa correspondent, and Paul gave me a big pat on the back and said, "Great work, mate. Don't forget the little people."
Burma cut itself off from the world.
Typical sort of Paul Lockyer approach to journalism, meaning talk to real people and spend time really finding out what real people think and giving them a voice.
Thanks very much.
And this is something that I've always tried to do.
Only now is the country beginning to emerge from its shell.
And looking at some of Paul's old travels around Southeast Asia, particularly in Burma, some old footage of Paul travelling on the train from Mandalay and meeting with Aung San Suu Kyi really did give me this sense of following Paul into an environment 20 or 30 years after he was here. You know, not that much has changed. The old pictures of Rangoon look much the same. Aung San Suu Kyi's equally beautiful, just a few years older. And here we are still talking about and hoping for some sort of democratic change in Burma. It really made me think that 30 years is just the blink of an eye.